Ontario's craft beer industry is booming. According to the Ontario Business Report, more than 40 licensed craft brewers from the Ottawa Valley to Waterloo, Niagara to Muskoka are turning out premium, high-quality beer based on their individual interpretation of brewing styles. Here in Sudbury, Stack Brewing has made its mark on the thriving Ontario craft beer scene with their unique style and flavors.
I guess they call me the Brewmaster.
Brewmaster Michael Guillemette has been perfecting his brewing style for years.
Brewing is more than 9,000 years old, and so we've had lots of practice over the years developing methods to make certain flavors and profiles and different styles. There are hundreds of styles of beer out there that we can play with, and we're constantly adding to them. We're always adding new spices and flavors and all of that to our beer to make something different.
How do you make a beer that's different from the hundreds?
That's a great question. A lot of beers have faded in and out of fame over the years, and with that, a lot of styles have sort of been forgotten about simply out of people not shipping them as far as it would be nice if they would. I'm particularly passionate about French beer and the history of French beer, and so Le Pot à l'Enfer, one of our French farmhouse ales, here is a beer style that's more than 600 years old that doesn't get well represented in Ontario very much, simply from lack of production. It's not that it's not a great beer style, it's just that, you know, with so many IPA drinkers out there, it's much easier to make an IPA and sell it quickly instead of making something strange and weird and hoping somebody buys it. And we're lucky to be in a very French community that, you know, hears a French name and buys it. So. And
speaking of strange and weird, I've noticed some interesting names. Could you tell me a few of those?
Yeah, we think we're really funny. So we've named some of our tanks in the brewery with little shout outs to some famous people and random stuff. One of our tanks is named R2D2 because it happens to look an awful lot like R2D2. For the last 18 months or so, we've made more than 25 or 30 different styles of beer. At this point, we've got 7 flagship beers that are in the fridge basically all the time. And beyond that, we've got usually 1 or 2 special seasonals that go along with it. For right now, for example, we have our pumpkin ale that's up in the fridge right now. It's a pumpkin porter. And we're just coming out with a new stout called Twist and Stout. We also think our label names are funny too. The other one that I'm basically forced to make every couple of months is called Smoke and Oak, a beer that I make with malts that have been smoked over an open fire of beechwood chips. And once it's fermented, I mix whiskey with oak chips and add that to the beer as well. And so you get this really cool sort of bacony smokiness with a really cool oaky, almost boozy finish, and it's really, really interesting.
Okay, so now all these things you're telling me, I had no idea that this was even part of making beer.
Right.
So what are the steps, I guess?
The steps in producing beer, at least from scratch, are the same all over the world. It's the same process that we've been using for more than 1,000 years now. All beer needs to consist of at least 4 ingredients: water, hops, barley, and yeast. And all of our beers here start with that at least. Right here is the mash tun. This is where I mix all of that malted barley you saw with a bunch of hot water. In that process, I hope to convert all of the starches in the grain into sugars. This is the Twist and Stout. There are all sorts of funny things in that mash tun right now. There's not only light malted barley, there's also dark roasted barley and chocolate malts and things like that that produce all sorts of really cool.
I can kind of smell the chocolate.
It's neat, right? And above that, we even have almost 19 kilos of flaked oats in there as well. That adds more fiber and protein to the beer, so it has better head retention. It's got a velvetier mouthfeel.
So this would be good for breakfast.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay. Cheers.
Stack Brewing hopes to push their own beer sales into the LCBO soon. But for now, you can get your Angry Moose or Valley Girl on tap or in a can at the brewery itself. For NorthernLife.ca, I'm Malika Villegas.